sort of consideration for consequences.
From people making the news.
If the North will be saved a lot of trouble, I think it is important that they should come together.
To those it affects.
We do accept that there was very bad mistakes made in our banking area.
Behind the headlines.
Most South Koreans are not interested in reunification.
Is the inside story. At this time on Al Jazeera.
In a new series of one-hour documentaries, Al Jazeera English showcases films from across the Al Jazeera network.
We are now heading in towards Palestinian waters.
Two small boats set out from Greece to challenge the siege of Gaza. A dangerous act of defiance in the face of injustice.
They're only trying to scare us.
An extraordinary act of solidarity with the Palestinian people.
Al Jazeera World at this time.
The times change. The instruments evolve. The battlegrounds shift.
This is America! Our country!
But the international struggle continues.
He was murdered!
Uncompromising, hard-hitting investigations.
I can't get no justice from no one in Jamaica.
People and power, at this time on Al Jazeera.
China has a growing elderly population, and as a consequence of its one-child system, there are fewer younger people to take care of them. It's a responsibility that often falls to the state. Private retirement homes offer an alternative, but independence comes at a price, financially and emotionally. Faces of China, at this time on Al Jazeera.
As the people of Uganda head to the polls, fears of vote rigging, public protests and violence are proving an unwelcome distraction. But after 25 years, will President Museveni retain power? Ugandan elections on Al Jazeera.
All the news, all the time. aljazeera.net/English.
This is Al Jazeera.
Hello and welcome to the News Hour. Live from Doha, I'm Taimur Nabili, and from our news centres here and in Washington, D.C., these are the main stories. Libya's deadly unrest. Witnesses tell Al Jazeera that dozens of people have been killed as anti-Gaddafi protesters battle security forces. New bloodshed also in Bahrain. The security forces there have attacked protesters for a second time. But a different picture in Egypt, where thousands of people packed Liberation Square to celebrate their revolution.
Hello, I'm Daljit Dhaliwal in Washington with news from the Americas, including
those against.
Going it alone against world opinion, the United States blocks a UN resolution condemning Israeli settlement building in the occupied West Bank.
Well, a doctor in eastern Libya has told Al Jazeera that more than 70 people have now been killed in the battles between security forces and people who oppose the rule of Muammar Gaddafi. The centre of the unrest has been in the country's east and the region's biggest city, Benghazi. Reports there say that security forces have actually now fled that city and left the surrounding centres of Al-Baida, Shahat, Darna and Tobruk. In the capital, Tripoli, though, where the leader Muammar Gaddafi retains support, the streets are quiet for the moment. Al Jazeera's broadcasts into Libya have now all been jammed on several frequencies. Our website has also been blocked there. We'll hear more from witnesses in Benghazi in a moment after this report from Bernard Smith.
A series of funerals for protesters killed by security forces in Benghazi. 14 people were shot dead on Thursday, according to a privately owned newspaper. The city is the focal point of demonstrations against Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. International media access to the country is limited. The outside world is heavily reliant on what Libyans manage to upload on the internet. The funerals were a consequence of these protests in Benghazi 24 hours earlier. Gunshots can be heard crackling through the air as the authorities try to suppress the crowds. Scenes of dissent on this scale are unprecedented in a country Gaddafi has ruled unchallenged for more than 40 years.
What's happening in Benghazi is a big massacre. People are being killed on the streets. People are demonstrating peacefully. They are asking for a decent life, not more than a decent life. There is in front of me, in front of the main court in Benghazi, more than 50,000 people.
While Libya is oil-rich, its eastern parts are more impoverished. WikiLeaks cables from US diplomats suggest that Gaddafi deliberately allows poverty and unemployment to rise here, weakening opponents. By contrast, in the capital Tripoli, Gaddafi appeared at a rally held by supporters. If you hold a country in an iron grip, adoring crowds can be quickly arranged. But analysts say the colonel does enjoy genuine respect in parts of Libya away from the east. And unlike Egypt, Gaddafi has petrodollars to pour over social problems. Bernard Smith, Al Jazeera.
Well, a short while ago, my colleague Dareen Abu Gheda spoke to Mohammed al-Barkawi, who's an engineer in Benghazi. He told us he thinks there were at least 30 people killed in the protests on Friday.
As a start, it was peaceful demonstrations. When people start being killed and bloodshed has been more than around now 30 people. People burned down all these buildings out of rage. They were marching peacefully to the graveyard, imagine, to the graveyard to bury their people, and they were shooting at them, live ammunition.
Has the security lost control of Benghazi at this point?
They have lost control of the streets and the center of Benghazi. Now they are in their camps.
And what about the surrounding cities of Benghazi? We're also hearing reports that the city of Al-Baida, which is northeast of Benghazi, is no longer under government control. Can you confirm that or deny that?
Yes. Al-Baida, Al-Marj, Darna, Tobruk. Even you can check yourself through the Egyptian border, even the border city of Saad. The bordering city of Saad has been taken by its people. Now the eastern region has almost fallen in the hands of its people because of the stupidity of the Libyan government. The demonstrations started peaceful demonstrations. I heard them myself asking for a decent life, no more than a decent life. After the killings, they are not looking for a decent life anymore. They are looking for revenge from Gaddafi and his government.
This is what I want to ask you, Mohammed. Are demonstrators calling for more freedoms at this point in the country, or are they now calling for the fall of Gaddafi's regime?
They are calling for the fall of